afternoon. Welcome to episode 3 of The Other Side of the Cup. Today is a really interesting episode. We have a special guest in our podcast, our first guest. And of course, this episode is brought to you by Coffee Flock, Roasting, Education, and Community. The episode today will be about coffee business, reality data, what's next in our industry. We have today, our guest is Dylan Thome. Dylan is the co-founder of Coffee Flock. He is from Wichita, born in Wichita but raised in Seattle, and he's a business administrator. We met in Italy, Rimini in 2014, connected in 2014. We started working together and living together in 2016, and we married in 2017. Welcome, Dylan.
Thank you.
How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Yes, and first, you know what we have to do in our episode? The first thing is talking about what are we drinking today? You were the brewer, so what did you do today?
Well, after listening to your last podcast, I had to brew up some of the Los Pirineos coffee. That was the first coffee we drank, but the second coffee we drank is Ethiopia washed Sheka from Eliana Jordalis. I brewed that on our good switch, upgraded Hario switch. Had to switch it up a bit.
I have to ask you, and I know that this is not the topic of our episode today, but why do you like so much V60? What is what you find in V60 that you like so much?
I love the V60. It's consistent. It's easy. My only problem with this one is because we're using it as immersion, we can only brew a little bit. That's why I had to brew a second cup today.
Okay, because normally you brew when you're doing a V60, you do like 30 grams.
I brew
right?
enough for the two of us, and with this one I can only brew 1 cup at a time, so I'm definitely going to have to upgrade to the 03 version of this Hario switch.
Okay, so remember this episode today, we're talking about coffee business today, reality, data, and what's next. Dylan, as a co-founder of Coffee Flock, has been on this industry for more than 15 years now. He has a huge experience, and I have some interesting things to say about him, because when he studied administration, he wanted to become his own boss, right? That's the idea behind.
Mm-hmm.
Can you develop a little bit why you wanted to be your own boss?
Well, after I started working at a pretty young age, 15 years old, I got my first job. I worked in some fast food restaurants. I worked in many different jobs. And at some point, I realized that there were good bosses and there were bad bosses. And I realized I just wanted to be my own boss so that I could do my own thing. What I didn't realize is that you're never really your own boss. You're always working for somebody. You're working for your customers. You're working for the government because we pay taxes. We're working for almost everybody except for ourselves.
Yeah, that's interesting. You know, I want to bring some data about the coffee industry because we're going to get into that conversation. But right now, consumers are not just interested in lattes or drinking like coffee with milk, but they are also interested in other segments of the industry like cold brew, nitros, or even other kind of espresso drinks, like, you know, the seasonal things, the trendy things that everybody spice, pumpkin lattes, and these kind of things. But they're also interested in processing methods. Not everybody just wants to drink coffee with milk. There are a lot of people interested in knowing what is behind of the cup. Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, recently, of course, we've seen a lot of co-fermentations and a lot of different hybrid processes that are getting very popular right now.
But do you think that consumers are interested in that?
Of course, yeah, and in fact, I think it brings a new consumer to our market. In fact, that wasn't there before. Because people say, wow, it doesn't taste like coffee, or it tastes like something other than coffee. And sometimes these are consumers who really didn't like to drink coffee before because they were introduced to something that didn't taste outrageous to them or even good to them.
Yeah. The industry in 2024, the coffee business, the coffee market was valued in tens of billions of dollars, and this continues to grow. It's not that it's stopping. The specialty coffee, just the specialty coffee market, brought to the industry 47 billions of dollars. The specialty coffee. They have the annual growth say that it's going to be between 9 to 9.5% until 2030. So it's going to keep moving up. Do you think that, have you seen this in our business, in what we do? Have you seen this, that it keeps growing and growing and growing?
Have I seen the growth of specialty in our business? Well, we've always been dedicated to specialty. And I think that there's a growing interest for people who want to get into coffee because they see that the specialty coffee market is valuable. But on the other side of the cup, we see Blue Bottle, we heard recently, is actually Nestle is trying to sell Blue Bottle now.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like, maybe Luckin Coffee from China is interested in buying it. So why are they now getting out after how many years
I
ago?
think there is. I think there is a
into Blue Bottle.
Yeah, I think there is an acquisition of Nestle wants to do something now different in terms of what Blue Bottle brought to the table. I have a question for you, and this is something that really is interesting for me. Since all the time that we have been working together, more than in 2016, more than 9 years together, together, there has been always the people coming to us and saying, I want to work in coffee. This is my dream. I want to do this in coffee. I am an architect. I am an anesthesiologist. I am a doctor in medicine. I am a lawyer. I'm an architect. But I have always wanted to do this on coffee. I have this dream, and we have heard about people with leather cloth and coffee, books and coffee, plants and coffee, everything with coffee, bakery, of course, everything in coffee. Even you opened your first business, a drive-through. So what do you think there is in coffee that people, even when they say that they want to retire, when you retire it's because you don't want to keep working, they want to open a business in coffee. What is it that coffee has that brings so many people this attraction to be on the industry? And I want you to tell me about why you did it.
Well,
yes, why you did it and what you think that there is in coffee.
Okay. Well, starting off, I think that it's ignorance, to be honest. People see it as an opportunity, and they're very ignorant to what all goes into the business. They see that you can buy coffee at market prices, which is a few dollars a pound, and they think that you can sell coffee for $5 a cup, and they see big margins. They see coffee shops that they go to, and they see young kids working at the bar, and they think, this is really easy, that I could do this. And it's not like that. They don't see everything behind the scenes. They don't see that labor costs consume half of your margin. You know, they really don't understand all of that. For me, that was probably a big part of it. But also in the Seattle area, in that time, it was kind of a sexy industry to get into. Everybody saw that Starbucks blew up in Seattle. Everybody, a lot of people in the Seattle area opened coffee businesses who probably shouldn't have. That's why it's so saturated there with some good coffee shops and some bad ones. You have to really look out to find the good ones because the bad ones are everywhere too. So, yeah. Did I miss something?
Yes, but what is that you think that is so attractive to people?
Well, coffee is a social conduit. Most of these people just really like coffee too, and they think that it's something that's fun, and it is. It is very fun. I may not have gotten into coffee for the right reasons, but it definitely I stayed in it for the right reasons. I fell in love with that.
I think there is like this fact that when you go to a coffee shop, you think that is the vibe, the ambience is nice. Is you feel like, oh, this I could be doing this every day, and the music and the people and all kind of people. Everybody drinks coffee, despite right now this new generation being the ones that are more attracted to coffee. Yeah, the 25, 39 years old generation is really attracted to what the vibe that coffee brings to them. So but do you think that because the fact that you were raised in Seattle, do you think that growing up there shaped the way that you work today, the creativity,
Definitely.
the independence,
Of course.
Yes.
No, I think so. One thing about growing up in the coffee industry in that time in Seattle is that in a span of 5 years, we had like 3 U.S. barista champions, and these are people who I was bumping shoulders with at latte art throwdowns on a monthly basis. We had great coffee professionals in that time, and there still are. And no, we sucked up a lot of that knowledge, and I used it. In Café Registrado, we used some of that knowledge too. Yeah. For example, when we started getting asked for a menu item that we didn't know that existed, which was the lagrima.
Mm-hmm.
We had to adapt. We had to figure out first what this menu item was, which is basically a cup of steamed milk with a few drops of espresso. And we had to figure out a way how to design this as a menu item without compromising our quality standards. Yeah. And I remembered something that I picked up from Slate Coffee, where some of my barista friends that you know too, like Brandon Paul Weaver, Chelsea Walker, to name a few, they had a beautiful presentation where they deconstructed a latte. They had a wine glass with steamed milk in it. They had an espresso, all laid out on a tabla, on a little wooden tray. And so I thought, why don't we deconstruct this latte and present it to the customers as their lagrima? They get to put as many drops of their espresso on that as they want, or as little as they want, and it worked out great. Not only did we have the most beautiful presentation of a lagrima in all of Argentina, but we started to convert these customers who wanted their lagrima into customers who've started ordering cappuccinos or lattes or cortados. They wanted to drink the whole espresso. They didn't want to leave it because they didn't want to sacrifice them.
And sometimes they didn't even realize that they drank the whole espresso. Then at the end they say, oh my God, I drank the whole espresso. I can't believe this. because they were used to go to coffee shops in Argentina and drink just a lagrima, that it was this white thing with 3 drops of coffee. But do you remember how our baristas were so mad at the beginning, saying, "This is not a specialty. We are not here for that." You remember that?
Yeah. We had
and
to
how
give
we
them
managed. Yeah.
We had to give them the whip and tell them, look, we can't thrive, we can't even exist without our customers wanting to come back. So, we had to really take the pretentiousness out of them from the beginning. That was really early on.
They were kind of pretentious because this happened just the first day that we opened. The customer came and asked for a lagrima, and we didn't know what it was. And Argentina has something really interesting too, that is that they are used to order things that are not in the menu. They don't care about the menu. They're always asking for things that they want, like acortado, mitad, half and half, and we didn't know what they were saying. So for us, asking for a lagrima, especially me coming from Venezuela and Dylan coming from the States, it was like, what? What is this? Our baristas were really mad. This is not a specialty. We cannot do that, until we came with the idea of deconstructing the latte, and it still is. And many people started doing after we did it in Argentina. So do you think that living in a country so different from your country shaped somehow the way that you work in the coffee industry?
Yeah, I guess it made me be a little more open to new ideas as well. I think that what we did in Argentina was very different from what the Argentinian consumer was really used to in terms of specialty coffee there.
Yeah.
Because we didn't sacrifice anything. We imported our own coffees when it was ridiculously expensive to do so, but we got really high quality coffee that way, that there was no way for that coffee otherwise that we could get it, because nobody was importing that expensive of coffee.
Yeah.
In terms of like green coffee importers in Argentina. So I don't know. We've been told what we were doing here wasn't going to work too. Some people saw our auction lot coffees that we put on our menus when we first opened up Miami Coffee, and I remember hearing rumors from somebody who was saying that this kind of a business wasn't going to work. And I don't know, we're still here. And we're still buying amazing coffees that are maybe too expensive, but we're still having fun.
When circling back to the idea of why you think that people are opening coffee shops, what do you really, honestly, and this I'm asking you as a person that has been in the industry of teaching for more than 9 years with me, what do you think that people are really looking for when they say, I want to open a coffee shop? They're looking freedom, creativity, validation.
Freedom's a good one. I think that I don't think people really want to retire and do nothing, and so they look at the coffee shop atmosphere, the setting, the environment as a place that they can slow down. And so, they think, yeah, I'll close my cleaning business, and I'm gonna, put this money that I've saved my retirement into a retail space where I can sell coffee, and then I'm gonna sit back and drink my cappuccino and enjoy life. It's really sad because they don't see that they're actually going to be doing grocery store runs with 10 and 20 gallons of milk at a time, coming back and forth from Costco. They're going to be running to the bank. They're going to be doing this and that. They're really not going to slow down at all. Although I still dream that one day that you and I will have a coffee shop down by the beach and a little roaster, and that's going to be our kind of slowing down.
Yeah, and we, because I think that coffee has this beauty itself that it's like you think that I'm gonna be on the beach and I'm gonna be retiring and I'm going to open a little coffee shop, and there are so many challenges on the way. And I think here that maybe sometimes it's because you have high expectations.
Yeah.
Because you want, if I think that the less that you know, maybe it's better for you in terms of expectation, because we have heard people say nothing, they know nothing in the industry, but they came and they said, I want to serve the best specialty coffee. I want to serve the best coffee that there are. And some people even said, I just want to serve curated coffee. And we ask ourselves, why? Where did you get this idea? What do you think when this happened to us and people say, I want just to serve the best specialty coffee, but then when you offer them the portfolio and you give them the coffees that are really specialty coffee, high-end specialty coffee, they don't want to pay for that.
I don't know. I think your question, it's coming from two different angles here. So first, you have people who are overestimating kind of their projections, that they make estimates about how much they're going to sell, and they're very poorly calculating the costs that are involved, which is pretty dangerous. They need to be able to make money. Opening a small coffee shop by the beach, you're not going to be guaranteed to be, making enough money to support your lifestyle, to pay rent, and to do all of this and that. Now, on the other side, you're talking about people who want to curate kind of like this omakase Japanese coffee, high quality coffee experience, which is kind of a different thing, which I think is kind of interesting too. But maybe the margin can be higher on those products, not necessarily, and you got to sell hundreds of cups. I don't know. Can you open up a coffee shop in your house too, and do a small table with serve 8 people a day, and that's your omakase coffee setting?
Well, we know the story that I always tell you about the Hindu woman. That's a dream for me. She started cooking in her house, and the supper club, and she received people in her house. Her husband didn't even know that she was doing that, because she was doing in the time that the husband was working, and she was cooking this amazing and food for supper. And today she's one of the best chefs in the world. And that idea that she received people in her house cooking for them every day. At the beginning, she only had 1 person, 2 persons, and then at some point she started having list of people. She needed to tell her husband that she was doing this. And sometimes you start really slow and you grow from there too. I would love to have a coffee shop in Margarita Island, close to the beach, and serve really good coffee with beautiful music. I would love that. Who doesn't? Yeah. Okay. Let's keep with this. But it's not just singing and dancing in coffee. We have really important challenges that we need to consider when we're opening a coffee shop. The operating margins. The operating margins are not always easy. The cost, the rent, the labor, these are constant considerations that you have to deal with in the industry. And one thing that I will say is the staff. The staffing is really, at least here in Florida, And I think that is in the whole United States, but it's a big problem to keep the staff. You give training, you provide training, and then they leave. So is this in terms of this the operating margins? What can you say? What if I come to you? What would you say? What do you think that I have to really know in order for me to consider this and not get a surprise later?
You got to know that the labor costs are much higher than what people think. It's going to be the biggest cost, bigger than your rent costs by far. And I mean, we even see that with the companies that are using the super automatic machines that can really. It doesn't take a whole lot of training to have baristas making high quality coffee. They're still seeing that their highest operating costs are their labor, and yeah, I mean, there's no getting around that really.
But when you say that it's going to be even bigger than your rent, how much do you think the staffing is going to be in percentage?
Probably 30 to 40%.
Yes, but taxes are higher too.
Yeah, the taxes here in Florida, I think, are going to be around 20%.
So you have 20 plus 30%. Just in that.
That's half of your margin right there.
Yeah, and it's not even rent included.
Yeah, but remember that 20% of your taxes comes from your profit.
Of course, you need to make profit, but still, you don't open a coffee shop to not make a profit. You need to make a profit super fast in order for you to be able to keep being and existing on the business. What is it about the when you say that the profit? Coffee is enough by itself?
No.
What would you recommend to people?
Coffee can be enough if you're going to have huge volumes, but that's generally not going to be the case. Drive-through coffee shops worked in the Seattle area because they had people lining up, and even then, we always found ways to sell, muffins or sandwiches or something else on the side to boost that average ticket cost. Breakfasts obviously go well with coffee. Breads, if you can make them in house, the margins are good on those too.
But we have the example of stores that are only coffee. We know that. We have a client that is only serving coffee, and there is many others like Seven Brew. What is the?
Well, they're serving coffees, they're serving frappuccinos, they're serving teas, they're serving
but no food.
Energy drinks.
No food.
But they're even incorporating the cookies and small things because people probably because people are demanding it for one, but also you got to add something in.
Yes, so coffee itself sometimes can work and sometimes can't.
So in order to, what's going to draw me to go to a coffee shop? Well, maybe they have this really delicious breakfast sandwich. So I'm going to go there, I'm going to drink coffee there, but I'm also going to enjoy that sandwich.
Yeah, well, talking about the statistics, 66% of American adults drink coffee daily. This is higher than tea. 66% of American adults, they drink coffee. And this is a number that is higher than tea, soda, or even bottled water. They are consuming like 3 cups per day. But 46% of people drink at least 1 cup of coffee in their houses. 46% of these 66%. Yeah. So what you are saying is true. Is true.
What would really draw me to go to a coffee shop, and I'm trying to also block out the fact that I'm kind of a coffee snob, but the thing that would really draw me to go to a coffee shop these days is I know I can pick up a bag of freshly roasted coffee beans from the shelf. So, I avoid the added shipping, the added carbon footprint of, buying from my favorite roaster because it's already there on the shelf. So I usually, when I go to a coffee shop, if they have a great breakfast sandwich, I'm getting that. I'm going to get an espresso.
A cookie, because you love chocolate
a
cookies.
drip coffee.
Yeah.
If they have a good baking program, I'm probably going to bring home a croissant or a cookie or something. And I'm going to buy a bag of beans. So that turns my $5 cup of coffee, enjoying at a coffee shop, to now I'm dropping almost $50 at that coffee shop.
Yeah.
That's why we can't go to coffee shops anymore.
Yeah, but this is the thing, and this is interesting because I just said that 46% of people are drinking coffee in the house before going out. That means that this growth means an opportunity for coffee shops as well, because you can diversify your business, not just think on the coffee shop. You can have a website and sell your coffee beans in the shelf for people that.
I also think that's why it requires more skills than just being able to make great coffee. Or taste good coffee. Like, you should also know how to set up operations. If you know how to bake, that would be great. If you can incorporate a baking program. If you should be familiar with setting up POS systems and bookkeeping, accounting, running a website. There's all sorts of other skills that go into running a business.
Yes, and it takes a lot of time.
It takes way more time than actually the brewing part. So
and
don't
energy.
Just think because you can make a great latte art, or you can do awesome pour overs, that you're ready to open up a coffee shop. You need to really dedicate time to getting
you need to deal with the things that are not so beautiful. Like, you need to deal with the government, and they come and they do inspections, and you need sometimes to spend with them 3 hours because they ask you a lot of questions. Remember that you're serving a food. Coffee is a consumer food. So they're going to be taking time from you, and you need to do invoices, and you need to pay the invoices. Is that part of the business that is not attractive, that takes a lot of energy, that drains your energy as well? I think that, and I'm going to be honest, that 90% of the people that we have seen saying, I want to open a coffee shop, are people that have never been on the industry, that they don't even know how to do coffee. And that's what I have seen, and I've been on this for a long time. So that is the case. However, and this is an example that is really interesting for me, the people in Puerto Rico, the young generation, the baristas, and they are educating themselves, and they want to open coffee shops, but they have been working on this. And that is really interesting for me, because most of these persons are students. We met them, but all of them want this. I want to be a coffee shop owner, and they're doing it slowly. Some of them are opening carts or opening little coffee corners in places, or doing collaborations with other shops, and they are putting the coffee there. But this is something in Puerto Rico that really is interesting to me, that the people that are working, they have the desire, and I'm talking about young people in their 20s, 25, wanting to open coffee shops.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good example, because some of those who we're talking about, they're putting blood, sweat, and tears into it, and they're also going out there and getting experience in working in other people's businesses, which is only going to be invaluable for them, all the experience that they're going to bring to the table. So it'll be an exciting time to see, the coffee shops that will be, and coffee businesses that will be growing in Puerto Rico in the next 5 years. Not that there wasn't already a good one, but,
It's just an example, because 90% of the people that I have seen is people that is not on the industry, and they take barista classes because they want to learn before opening, and it's not enough to come to a barista class, certified or not. It's not enough because the job behind is really hard.
We've seen that too. We've seen people come to a barista class,
Yeah.
open up a coffee shop, and close the
And
coffee
closing
shop
in 6 months. Yeah.
or less.
Yeah. Inflation and coffee prices. That's another struggle. Coffee has been really crazy in the last, I would say, 3 years. And I'm not talking about coffee prices. I'm talking about everything that is surrounding that, not only in the producer side, but in the financing and in the logistics. So what would you say about that? What is the, of course, in all these people that come to us and they want to open businesses, just 2% want to be roasters. The rest wants to just open coffee shops or restaurants or bakeries with coffee. So what would you say to somebody that comes and not only doesn't know anything about the industry, but doesn't know anything about the coffee chain per se?
Well, coffee is a volatile product.
Mm-hmm.
Price will always be going up and down. But you mentioned some statistics about the growth of coffee and the growth of specialty coffee, particularly. So, what we need to realize is that demand is going to continue to rise, and supply will rise to an extent, but with climate change and other problems, the supply is not going to probably raise
At the
same rate as demand will. So coffee prices are going to continue to rise. We've seen a lot of challenges basically since COVID, but prior to that, coffee roasters benefited from a long time with really low coffee prices.
Yeah.
We're talking about $1 per pound, far below $2 per pound. Commodity prices for years.
But I haven't seen that in more than 6 years.
The good part of a decade. And and COVID disrupted a lot of things for producers, for logistics, for transportation, for insurance, for everything. And then the C market adjusted, and the C market tripled in a matter of a year. So, and since then, it hasn't come back down. But coffee will always be a volatile product as long as it's tied to commodities markets.
You think I'm going to open the coffee shop and I have the money for the equipment and I have the money for this and I have a budget and I will start. But I don't want to say the word, but that happens. So what would you say that is more important for you? And being totally honest, what is more important for you if you want to open tomorrow a coffee shop? What is the thing that you said, I have to have this?
Deep pockets.
Explain that.
Well, if you're starting to count the money and see, how far you can stretch it, it's probably an issue. It's probably a big problem because there will always be things that you didn't consider in your business plan in terms of startup costs, in terms of whatever it is. And then most people aren't realistically budgeting for 2 years of operating expenses before they start making profits.
You think that they are really doing that?
No, they aren't.
No.
And if they are, then does that incorporate all of those things that they didn't actually consider in their original planning? So if they're actually really trying to stretch their budget, it's probably not enough. That's why I'm saying deep pockets. so that when the things that you didn't consider come into play, you still have that budget to last a couple of years before you start becoming profitable. Are you going to be able to? Are you going to actually be able to put food on your table? Put shoes on your children's clothes, get them to the school, everything that your life takes. How is all that going to be paid for when you can't pay yourself, let alone pay your staff, let alone pay your rent, keep the doors open on your business?
Yeah, the people that stay after COVID, through COVID and after COVID, are the ones that were really somehow prepared to, that they have money on the bank, they have savings, and things that the rest disappeared because it was not anybody said, you know what, don't pay me rent because I know that it's COVID and you are closed, you are not producing. Nobody said that. Everybody said, I don't care, you need to pay me.
Luckily, the government stepped in and gave some grants.
Yeah.
That was definitely helpful for a lot of businesses, for sure, to keep employees on. But not everybody had access to that, and even the ones that did, maybe you really have to have your books in the right shape to be able to weather storms like that.
So I think that money is important, and that would be my suggestion. You need to have money on the bank just in case. We have the pretty real example of when we moved here. We have these friends from Argentina. They are really, really, really good in everything that is a bar, and they wanted to do like a speakeasy with us. We were in control of the coffee, and they were going to be on the bar because they are expert on that. They're really good. They came here, and we started looking for a location. We even had a meeting, but Dylan was all the time saying, if we don't have this amount of money on the bank to keep us out of the bridge in case that something happened. And it happened. We decided before opening and doing anything or a bigger commitment, we decided we don't have the resources to do this. And like 3-4 months later, COVID came. So we were really an angel. We had an angel that protected us because we didn't have this amount of money, and the place was really big.
And thank God that they, took what we were talking about realistically.
Really, and good. They didn't get mad or anything.
That's a lot of money. Yeah. We don't quite have that amount of money, and so we all decided that it was not the right time.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah, so you open a drive-through on Seattle, but you close it. This is a moment that many people don't want to talk about it honestly. So what did closing this business taught you about success that maybe you never could have in another way?
That there are different metrics for success. So I did close the doors on my coffee business, and I opened new doors. And I took some time to not work for myself, but to go out and see what was outside of my box in coffee. Just prior to doing that is when we met. Before I closed the shop, I got my passport and went to Italy to go see World Barista Champion competition and be a part of that event and go abroad for the first time, and that's where we met. So when I closed the shop, I ventured with somebody who I had met through my coffee business to go visit coffee farms in Nicaragua, and that was an eye-opening experience in so many ways as well that I'm grateful for. And then, because I wasn't tied to my business, I was able to, take you up on your offer to come down to Argentina.
We are back. We are asking questions to Dylan about his business and about the path that he decided to take when he made the personal decision of closing his business. So Dylan, what was a truth that you had to accept when about yourself when you decided I'm gonna close? You put money in this business. You opened the drive-through. For the ones that are not familiar with a drive-through, is can you explain what is a drive-through? Because the people in Latin America, we are not used to have these kind of things. How is it?
It's a building with two big windows on each side where people drive, they pull up, they get their coffee, they put their coffee order in, they get their coffee and they drive
It's
away.
not a food truck because you can't move the car, right?
You can move the trailer to another location. It was all built on a trailer so it can be moved, but it's not like you go from one place to the next. This one was plumbed into, plumbing and electricity and all that stuff takes quite a bit of effort.
And you need permits and everything to be on that location. Yeah. Okay. So what was the truth that you need to accept about yourself when you decided, okay, I'm gonna close the drive-through?
The truth was that I didn't have any job prospects lined up. I had to go and look for jobs. Thankfully I had met quite a bit of people in the coffee industry who became friends who were able to help me out. So I was able to get, jobs here and there, but I didn't really have a path moving forward from there.
And how did you change that? How did you find a path? Because you could think that I want to open and I want to put this in context. We have a student, and she came with this idea that she was opening a coffee shop, and she didn't come from the industry, never worked in hospitality. She had another career, and she retired for this job, and she wanted to open, and she took a class with us because she was opening a coffee shop. 6 months later, she closed, and I remember one of the students that was her friend told me later, the teacher was right. It's more difficult than it seems. So that's the question.
I don't think I found the path. I think the path found me.
Okay.
So the reality is, I don't have all of the answers.
Yeah.
I never have, and I don't think I ever will. And people will only, be able to figure out what works for them personally. If you're on the fringe about making the decision to open up a coffee business or not, only time will tell how well that works out for each individual.
Yeah.
All I know is that for me, I found purpose in my life through coffee. And because coffee brought me my life partner.
Yeah.
It brought me, I think it's, for me, it's a very particular situation because, I opened a coffee business and coffee was a product to me. But it became a passion for me, and it's not going to happen for everybody like that.
Yeah.
I also, coming from a family with an agricultural background, learning more about where coffee came from became super important to me pretty early on, which is why when I closed my business and had the opportunity to travel with a group to Nicaragua to work on something that was a social economical development project, I got to learn about roasting. I got to learn about where coffee comes from. That for me had a big appeal, and it was also just a very real experience for me to connect those things to the product that I had grown to really love to serve to people. The first thing that I fell in love with coffee was the connection to people. I got to meet customers who, in my regular walk of life, they won't stop and talk to me on the street, but because was their
Yeah.
barista, I was their best friend in the morning.
Yeah.
And
That's beautiful.
And for me, that was really nice. I suffer from what some people will call the resting ass face. Are we allowed to swear on this?
Yeah, we are allowed.
So, so in general, people may not see me as being kind of friendly, but when the people pulled up in their car to my drive-through, I was all smiles because that was my business, and they were supporting my business. So I was super happy to see people come up.
Yeah, I think that is in my case. I never thought that I was gonna work in coffee. I was super happy being a lawyer. I was not happy with my country government, but I was super happy living in where I was living in Margarita Island, and having the friends that I have, and doing the exercises and doing everything. The only problem was the government, but the rest of my life was perfect. But I never thought, oh, I'm gonna do something with coffee. I was doing it just because of passion, because I fell in love with coffee. I didn't even drink, at that time I didn't even drink coffee. I was drinking lattes. So imagine. But how we have been working together for 9 years now. We met and we connect about coffee. So how do you separate identity with business while you're working with your spouse, with your wife? How do you separate that? Because coffee is a familiar business. There are a lot of people that are family related, that work together as wife and husband, mother and daughters, and children, and fathers, and cousins. And how do you separate and be honest with this, being identity with business?
Not well enough. The jury is out. How to do that? I don't have a good answer for that, except for trying to do better each day. Particularly with us, it's not just you and me, it's also you and me and Mata. So patience.
Yes.
And realizing that this person is very important to me, not just as an employee would be, but also because it's my family.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not easy. But
it's not easy, no.
But we have to.
And sometimes you need to make compromises that, okay, I don't want to talk about coffee anymore. And that happens a lot in our relationship. Yes, we got home and we are walking, and at some point he's talking. I said, I don't want to talk about work. And sometimes he's the one who said, I don't want to talk about work. And we just walk and talk about other things. But yes, it's not easy. You need to know that if you are planning to open something with your family. Is somebody thinking right now about opening a coffee business today, and they come to you? What is one question they should ask themselves before anything else? Not about coffee, but about life. What would you say?
One question they should ask themselves about life.
Before opening.
What do they want? What do they want to gain by having a coffee business? I always start by asking a person, why do you want to do this? What is it that you hope to gain from this? Their answer could have financial reasons. It could have some other aspect to it.
Emotional, even.
Yeah, but it's always interesting to hear the answer that they give.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. What is a really harsh truth that you wish somebody told you in 2011 when you opened your drive-thru about entrepreneurship, that you would have loved? Wow, you should have told me that, or I wish that I knew that at that time.
Huh.
I want you to know that Dylan didn't know any of the questions.
One of the biggest surprises for me was I thought I was really prepared in terms of business knowledge because I studied in the university business administration, and so I thought that those things I was going to be really good at, and that the coffee part was the part that I had to learn, and it really flipped for me because kind of the customer service and the coffee thing kind of became, well, it was really important really quickly for me. It's also the part that I thought that I did really well, and then it was the business stuff that kind of was so tedious for me,
and it still is.
Yeah. And I've gotten better at the business stuff about kind of being organized and doing spending a lot of time with those things because they're important. I think in the beginning it flipped so much for me because the other side of it was so much more interesting to me.
Yeah.
The customer service, the drinks, the alchemy of coffee was so much more interesting than the books and the bills and the taxes and all of the other stuff.
Administrative things. Yeah. What, in your experience, what matters more long term? Having a great idea and planning according to that idea, or having the capacity to adapt when things don't go as planned?
The latter. Being able to adapt when things don't go as planned is 1,000 times more important than a good idea.
But even before you get to the point that it's not going as you planned, don't you think that you need to have the capacity to see, this is not working, we need to fix what is not working, so we need to...
Yeah, you have to be able to measure results in real time and see when things are not going the way that you expected them to go, and be willing and ready to adapt to them.
So when you look at coffee businesses today, especially in this moment that we are finishing 2025, what separates, in your idea, the ones that last from the ones that are struggling?
The ones that bring value, I think, are the ones that are gonna last. The ones who are really bringing something that somebody they purchase it.
What is value for you in this context? What is value for you?
Value comes in many different forms. I'll bring back to the coffee experience, like coffee shop experience. The last time we were in Orlando, we went to a few different coffee shops.
Yeah.
And for me, going to a coffee shop, it's more than just the espresso that's in the cup. It's the experience that I get when I walk into that shop. Was I greeted when I walked into the shop? When I was walking out of the shop, did they tell me to please have a great day or acknowledge me again in some way? Did I have to wait while the espresso was dialed in? The espresso that I asked for, things like that also are part of the value proposition. So what I say in terms of the ones that bring value are, they could come in different ways, but do I feel like I got my money's worth when I left, or do I feel like I got ripped off?
Yeah, because a really interesting statistic for me is that 60% of the businesses in coffee businesses closed in the first year that they open, and it's not always related to the quality, and that's super interesting. Imagine, it's not about you have a bad product, maybe you have the best product, So value is in there in that context. But what are they missing that they are struggling? And sometimes for me it's just even a good human resources policies,
That's a huge one. Human
So-
resource policies, systems in place.
Yeah.
I think the human resources one is probably pretty often overlooked in small coffee shop businesses because human resources makes a lot more sense when you have 50 or 100
Employees, yeah.
When you're a small coffee shop, you don't necessarily have a position for human resource.
Yeah. You
Staff.
don't think on that.
And so it kind of falls by the wayside. But having lower staff turnaround, higher morale for your staff are things that will definitely make or break.
And
small
making
businesses.
the compromise that you worry for your staff. We always work that way when we were in Argentina. I just wish the people are more secure in what they're doing, that you don't open to close. You need to be prepared to sustain your business, and that is my last question to you. What would you say are the 5 things that you need to have in order to not just open? I'm not thinking about the logistics. I'm thinking about I open and I am thriving, or at least I'm trying.
5 things? You need me to come up with 5?
Yes.
Well, bringing it back to the one good question that I like to ask people when they say that they want to get into the coffee business. So having a good reason that goes beyond just financial means, because we all want to get rich off of coffee, but the reality is that most of us won't. Second would be deep pockets so that they have the ability to sustain themselves until they can actually start making money off of coffee. So some kind of another reason for wanting to be in coffee, some kind of a social impact would be great. At least having a social responsibility in mind. People skills, that you better love working with people, whether they're your employees or your customers, etc. And what's the question again?
What are the 5 things that you recommend them? These 4 are really nice.
Well, I think that you should definitely be willing to drink espresso.
Yeah, you can't do a good latte if you don't know how the espresso should taste. So you need to learn how to drink espresso. And black coffee, you need to, without sugar, of course. I will add, be prepared to be honest with yourself in things if things are not going well. Don't get stuck on the thing that is gonna get better. Make decisions at that. Be fast in what you need to do. This is a business of resilience and knowledge. The more you learn, the better. And I'm not talking about come and take all the classes. No, I'm talking about learning. It's about social skills, understanding generations. That, by the way, we will be talking about it in the next one. So, Dylan, is there any other thing? And I really want to thank you because, as I told you before, he was not prepared. These questions, I hid them from him. I wanted his answers to be super honest and reflective of what we do and how our life has changed because of coffee. So thank you very much
It was a pleasure.
For being here.
Thank you for having me.
So our next episode, number 4, it will be in Spanish, and we're going to be talking about flavor pairings. We're going to be talking about coffee, tea, and chocolate together, and we're going to learn a little bit how to try and taste bean to bar chocolates. It's going to be a really good one. So thank you again for listening to us, and I hope to see you again. Thank you.
I hope to be back soon.